yeah. So I'm in a weirdly positive mood for a Monday morning, which is nice. It's nice it's a good timing to talk crap.
Busy day ahead?
No, of course not. No, I don't think I've had a busy day for at least a year. No, I don't know what I'm doing today, but I just had a positive chat with the manager. So yeah, I'm in kind of let's sell my album to somebody kind of thing.
Nice.
World. So it's nice when you kind of get good news and things where people like your music and want to pay you for it and stuff. So, but yeah, all good. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, I've listened to it for a while, and some of my friends have been on it, and I know you spoke to my friend Dan recently as well. So
yeah, Dan's in LA too. Is that kind of how you linked up?
Yes. I mean, we've kind of, yeah, I've known lots of people that know Dan for many years, and but yeah, it wasn't until it was like a couple of festivals I think we played back in Europe where I knew that he'd moved here, and I was planning on it, so I was sort of just chasing him around, asking him questions about it and stuff. I'm like, what's it like? So yeah, he kind of came to be kind of my source in the know about how to make it work. So yeah, and then we've just become friends and collaborators and stuff since then. So yeah, it's been nice.
I saw you put his last record, I think it was maybe number 3 on your top 5 albums from last year.
He was very offended by that. He was offended by the rank 3. Yeah, I did. I mean, I love it. I love his music, and I thought that record, Grand Plan, was, and it was also just very nice as somebody who's done what he did, and as in moving from the UK to LA and stuff. Like, it was just nice to hear that in song and hear his reflections on it and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I just really liked his take and the kind of sound that he's found on that record.
That's actually what I was going to ask, because I was intrigued by, when you listen to that record, what do you hear in it that kind of relates to your LA experience moving there, and what kind of stands out as slightly different?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's completely different, because yeah, we just have had a different experience. He moved here on his own, and I think that's fundamentally. I've moved here with my wife in tow, so it's like you've already got a friend. You're not on your own, basically. Like, I don't know if I could do what he did. I think I'm a bit too scared. I was nearly a bit too scared to do what I did, and it was my wife Hannah is the dreamer and the driving force behind most of our like big decisions and things. So I'm definitely the skeptical, scared one who's like finding all the reasons why it couldn't possibly work. So yeah, in some ways I sort of listened to Dan's reflections and I'm quite kind of admiring and of the fact that he did it on his own. I think he did know a few people here. I mean, and that would have been even more bold to know 0 people. But so I mean, in some ways, that's almost what I enjoy more about it. It's like just hearing somebody else's like different version of my stories is almost more interesting to me sometimes than hearing the exact same thing back. I think like the stereotype that I feel like everyone knows about LA and it being this kind of place where everyone's kind of got this dream and everyone's trying to do something, and that's the same, and that giving you a bit of like anxiety, and yeah, I think that just gets to everyone, and I hear that in him, and when I talk to him, and I definitely feel that too. So yeah, there's definitely similarities, but yeah, I think fundamentally we've kind of had quite different experience. And for me, I was here a year before the pandemic, so it was like we kind of had that first year of trying to find your feet and
getting settled. Yeah,
not really achieving anything, just kind of getting settled, and then pandemic kind of shut the next year down. So yeah, it's been sort of unfortunate timing in that sense, but yeah, that would be a difference. I wish we'd have been here a bit longer before that was global pandemic killed everything. But hey ho.
You mentioned that kind of stereotype of LA with the idea that everybody's there chasing a dream and everybody wants something, and sometimes that can get a little bit much. where do you go for a bit of space when that happens?
I don't think I go anywhere, honestly. Like I'm sort of a very cerebral person. I feel like pretty much everything that happens to me just happens between my ears. Like that I feel like I could live a life of adventure without leaving my house. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, my mind is just going all over the place all the time, and I can convince myself out of bad places, and I can get myself into them. I don't really feel like I kind of rely on much external to me to get me anywhere. And I don't even think that's a strength. I don't think that's necessarily very good. Well, I don't know if I subscribe it with anything, but I don't really have practices. I don't feel like that I do. Like, I feel like some people would answer that question by like going to the beach. I feel like my wife would say she loves to go to the beach, and that clears her head. And I have had that experience. Like, it does help me clear my head sometimes, just sitting and listening to the waves and stuff. But I don't seek it out for some reason. I just kind of, if it happens, if I go to the beach, I go to the beach. But I don't like have these kind of places, these set things to do when I'm feeling a certain way. I'm not really sure why that is. To be honest, I don't know why I haven't like developed these things, but I'm just not very great at like developing. I'm sure I have habits. Like, I'm reading this book about habits at the moment, and it's like freaking me out.
What book are you reading?
It's that James Clear one. The what's it called? Atomic Habits.
I've not heard of it. I'm intrigued now.
It's quite big. I think it's one of those books that just says sold a bazillion copies, and it is quite good. But it's like there's this whole bit about kind of go through your day and just basically like write down what you do and then you can sort of see which ones are good. They're all sort of essentially habits, and see which ones are actually good and which ones are bad. And I was like saying to my wife, I don't know if I've got any good habits. It was like existential. It's giving me this existential moment of like, oh my God, I've not developed anything good in my whole life. I mean, it is difficult when you have this weird job where you don't routine. You can establish a routine, and then suddenly you're on tour for like a month or something, and then your routine is broken, and then I don't know. I don't find it easy then picking up a routine. I feel like every good diet that I've had has been broken because I just went on a tour after starting it, and it just like I would get somewhere with it, and then the tour would start, and it all just goes out the window, and then come back home, and it's like whatever. It's tough, and I think I definitely envy people that seem to be able to have great, just stick with these positive things that I just seem to like float around,
It's maybe in your nature though, because you're not someone who sits down and writes 9 till 5 either, are you? You're someone who very much creativity comes at random.
Yeah. But sometimes I make myself feel bad about that too, because I just think, I mean, it's very easy to make yourself feel bad, I suppose, in general these days about like what you do and who you are and who you aren't, and and then I look at where I am in my career and I go, you've done all right. Like, maybe you don't need to sit 9 to 5. Yeah, maybe that's not the be all and end all, And I think on a positive day, I would shout from the rooftops the benefit of not writing 9 to 5. I feel like I've read a lot of books. I just finished reading the Jeff Tweedy book about songwriting, and he's quite rigid. Like, this is what I do, and these kind of lyric exercises and all these things, and I'll go and do this in the morning and this, and I'm like, this sounds great, Jeff, but I just can't see me ever doing this. I can see me doing it one day and it working, and then the next day, and then never trying it again. I don't know. I think that works for some people. It just hasn't worked for me. And as you say, like I kind of write songs from. I think since moving to LA, I've been a bit more structured with it because I'm kind of opening my music up, or just music as a practice is it's a bit expanded a bit further than just what I do, making my records. Like, I'm working with other people, I'm writing things for kind of TV and film and stuff like, just being a bit more, just trying to diversify with that kind of thing. But and there you have to be a bit more crafty with it, and plan in sessions and things like that. And I find that quite positive and quite exciting because it feels fresh. But yeah, for my own music, I just, when it comes, and I'll probably attempt to write a song every week seriously, but like it won't happen. Yeah, it won't be a song most likely. And then it's when I trick myself, I sort of distract myself with something else, and then like my actual songwriting brain kicks in and goes, "You're going to write a song right now. You need to go and get a guitar right now and just sit and write a song, and it'll just come out in like one go, and it'll be like the best one I've written that month." And it's like, oh, I've been smacking my head against the wall on these other ones, like really trying hard, and then this other one just comes out of nowhere. But yeah, most people say it's in sort of attempting the other ones that you kind of unlock the kind of actual one that wants to come out. But yeah, it's honestly, I find songwriting the most annoying thing in the world. It's so irritating. I've been writing songs since I was like 14 years old or something, and I still have no idea how to do it, in any real practical way. It's a mystery. And I think that's actually quite exciting about it too, even though I whinge about it. I think it's what keeps it interesting too. And when I do see people that make it a kind of 9-to-5 practice, I think there's a bit of me that thinks that that's a bit cheap, or like that ruins the sort of romance of it a bit.
It was interesting that idea you mentioned there of having to kind of bang your head against the wall and try and work on the songs in order to get to the one that actually wants to come out. When you look back at the final one in comparison to the ones that came before it, do you see any patterns? Is there any thematic crossover? Are they kind of touching on similar things, or are they completely different?
I don't know if there's anything. I think if there is anything that connects them all, it's how honest they end up being. They end up being a bit more unfiltered, and I guess that makes sense because I'm not. There's no element where I'm really questioning any of it. It's just coming out, and then they feel slightly less contrived. Yeah, I think they just seem a bit more honest and a bit more raw. There's a song on my new record which I just sort of finished, and that's the one I'm sort of trying to shop around and hopefully start the release cycle soon, I hope. Called Me and God, which is the one. I feel like there's always like maybe at least one where it is true that it literally just came. Like, no exaggeration, it just came out of nowhere. And that's the song. It's called Me and God, and it's about sort of, I was brought up religious, and it's a kind of, an honest, like, this kind of imaginary conversation, or like between me and God and stuff, and our relationship, and what it means now to me and what it doesn't mean, and it's very kind of, it's quite honest and questioning, and I just don't think I could have sat one day at my desk and gone like, I'm going to write this song today. Like, it just came out. I'd never even thought about those things for years, and it just kind of tumbled out of me one day. And I live for those songs. Those songs I'm very grateful for, and I don't really know where they come from. And
had you ever imagined yourself having a conversation with God before writing that song? Well,
yeah, I mean, in a kind of like going way back to when I was like a super Christian person, and yeah, I mean, that was your life. It was like praying and stuff. So I guess in that sense, you were led to believe at least that you were having conversations. But I guess with somebody who never speaks back. Yeah, so like it's definitely something, or like that question of like what that means to me and what it used to mean to me, and I definitely must think about that. And my family are still into that stuff, and so it's like it's a constant in my life to a degree. But I just never. Also, I'd never been particularly comfortable with writing about it. So yeah, that I think sometimes those songs that just come out of nowhere are kind of ones that I feel like I need needed to have written, or like the idea is so far deep in me that I'm not going to bring it up by choice in a session, or like say I'm writing with somebody else. I'm not just going to be like, I've got this idea. Like I've got all these like weird hang-ups about my youth, and like let's write about that. It's like it's too intimate, and it's too raw that it just comes up in a very uncontrived way on its own. It was the same with a song on my one of my sort of bigger songs that got a great reaction, "Killing Me," which is about grief and my grandparents and stuff. And like it's the same thing. Like I didn't intend. I could never have intended to write that song. I feel like I personally. It just happened, and it came out of a real place, and I think that's maybe what an audience taps into. They can kind of hear that, and that it comes from somewhere real. And if anything, that's what I love about this genre, as kind of murky as the genre is now, the singer-songwriter or whatever you want to call it. Like it's tapping into those places and then presenting them in a pretty raw form as well. It's sort of what I still love and what I fell in love with, and about this kind of music. Yeah, that sort of untapped well of misery. And I don't know, but yeah, just kind of humanity that I think that we all go through when you get to the sort of bottom level of what it means to be alive. We're all doing the same thing, feeling the same things, and going through the same things, and to be able to tap into that is I find it really powerful. But yeah, I don't, and in a very like romantic kind of spiritual way, I don't know how to do that every day, 9 to 5. I feel like that's where it becomes this thing, which is I just have to let it happen.
I wonder if it's almost like what we were saying about both of those two songs there, the fact that they were maybe topics that had circulated in your head before.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like like loosening the soil, and then when you go to try and write a song, it just comes out easily.
I think that's right. I think it's sort of what, going back to kind of my life and my head, I feel like all this stuff is ruminating around in there all the time. Yeah, eventually it just finds its way to the kind of the light of the surface, and I can grab it and bring it out, and it's great. I love that way of thinking it, because it just means that I can watch as much Netflix as I want and just tell people that I'm writing. I'm just writing. No, I'm writing. I'm always writing. It's fine. Doesn't to the
always
untrained
working.
eye? Yeah, to the untrained eye, it looks like I still live like a student, but I'm working. It's all work, man. It's all happening. But no, I think that there is truth to that, and it's funny because it makes me think of my dad used to say the same thing to me when I was like at school, and how I would leave everything to the last minute, like essays and whatever it was I had to do, coursework and things. And he'd observed in me, and I don't know if this was just him trying to make me feel a bit better, but it was just like, because I'd actually find writing the thing at the end quite easy, and it's like, it's because he was just like, it was because you've been thinking about it this whole time. Like you've not been doing anything. It looks like it is, and it looks like to me and your mum like you're not doing anything. But you've obviously been ruminating on these ideas for a while, and then it just takes you ages to finally sit down and do the thing that you've been thinking about. And I think that there's some truth to that in how I write songs now. It's like just the way my creativity works is just, it's all there cerebrally in my head, churning away like a cow or whatever, munching his grass. And eventually I throw it up for want of a nicer image. Yeah.
You mentioned, I think you mentioned a couple of times now the idea of romanticizing songwriting and the process of it slightly. Which part of the process do you feel like you romanticize most, and how do you romanticize it?
I sometimes feel like my romanticizing it is like a defense mechanism against falling out of love with it, because it is the most irritating thing. Like songwriting, when it's not working, is hell to me. Like when you're working with somebody else as well, and you're just it's so awkward. I just find it so awkward and horrible when you just can't get anywhere, and you're just empty, and you're just two people or whatever, three, just staring at each other, like coming up with crap, and it's just going nowhere. It's like I find it excruciating, and yet when it works, it's the most amazing feeling ever to feel like you've written a great song. It's so addictive. Like it's wonderful enough to sort of make you just put up with all the times where it's really horrible, but like at the same time, maybe it isn't, and I can get quite jaded with it, and kind of, I'm a really rational person. I think I am. I'd like to think I am. So I think the romance of it is like it's like this just two things fighting each other, because there is a craft to it, and I appreciate the craft, especially when I'm working with other people on sort of like more poppy stuff or something. And there's definitely once you've written songs for a long time, you start to see these patterns that every song does, and you can start like analyzing stuff, and there's something fun about that. But it also makes me feel a bit cold, because I feel like I still want to be that kid when I first discovered kind of this kind of music and wanted to do this. Like, it was just so magical, and you really feel like that person on stage is singing their heart out and meaning every word, and they're not just phoning it in because they've been on tour for 2 weeks and they're singing the same songs, and they're not actually feeling that. Like, it's like this kind of suspension of disbelief, you know, that you have with actors and whatever. Like, yeah, I write really sad songs, and I'm not feeling it on stage, like, every time. Sometimes I genuinely am, but like, I think more often than not, it's a performance, isn't it? So, you know, I'm performing it. I know the bits where my voice is supposed to crack a little bit, that makes that line sound sadder and things like that. Like, some of it is like, becomes quite contrived because you've repeated it over and over again, and that fact upsets me sometimes, but I'm aware of it too. So I don't know what I'm trying to say, but like, there's part of me that wishes that I was kind of crying on stage every night, and it was like this really pure thing. And maybe it is for some artists, and I'm just a horrible cold person that like that has turned too jaded. But like, there's got to be an element of artifice to it. Otherwise, like, I would go insane, wouldn't I? If I was genuinely feeling some of these things that I wrote about every single night.
Like self-harm.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that every night.
I feel like the audience knows deep down, but it's a weird one.
They're feeling it.
Yeah, well, I think that's where the magic is. Like, I'm sort of pretending to feel it. Well, I did feel it for the starts. That's why I wrote the song. You'd hope. And I did, that is true for most of my songs. So you're just kind of reenacting it for the sake of other people to feel it. And there's a weird disconnect there to some extent with everyone. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, Alex. But
it's almost like wearing a mask to tell the truth.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. But I don't know what's got to do with romance. I think I romanticize the singer-songwriter in general. And I was having this argument with somebody recently about the sort of, I was arguing for the purity of the singer-songwriter, and it was like, it's rubbish, mate. It's all nonsense. Like, and I was like, well, yeah, it is. That's true. I know you're right. Like, there is no authentic. What is authentic? I don't know. And it was all falling apart around me. But yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. I still feel like I romanticize. It's not so much songs. It's like the role of the sad person and the guitar, and how that helps people, and sad songs in general, and what they do for people is something that I feel strongly about still.
You did a TEDtalk on it.
Go and watch my TED. Nothing makes you feel like a dick. It's like telling, have you seen you seen my TED talk on sad songs? Yeah, well, which was cool. It was a cool thing to do, and I'm proud of it. But I still feel strongly about it. It's funny because one of my friends, after I did that, and they saw it, was like, "Yeah, it's like you just stood on stage and told people why they should listen to your music." Like, and you made it sound like it was some deep thing, but really you were just telling people why your music is better than other music. I was like, yeah, it's true. You saw through it.
The place for the type of music you make in sad songs and why it's important.
Yeah. Well, I think it has a unique, let's say, like, importance in helping people connect with places inside them that maybe they don't like to go. And it's not something I kind of learned really, like, came to in some traumatic thing. I was always going to be like this. My parents and family are just deep people that think and are sort of chronically honest about stuff, and that's just sort of feels like it's in my DNA. Like I was always gonna make this kind of music, and just not from a family of like, yeah, just pretend everything's fine, like just like put it under the carpet and everything's gonna be fine. Like I just was brought up saying like, no, to say the thing that you mean and like confront it and all that kind of stuff. And I think, yeah, but even so, I still think that's a good thing to do. And I think that's at its best what listening to music that is sad in inverted commas, or like melancholy or whatever, can help you connect to. Obviously, if a song, one of my songs came up in some club or whatever, turn it off for sure. But it's the wrong place. But I think listening to that kind of thing sad music can be really cathartic and helpful. And that was the sort of gist of that little talk that I did at TED once, and I definitely still believe that now, and I'm still writing those miserable songs. You're never gonna stop me. Even living in LA hasn't changed that.
LA's a different kind of darkness.
It's true. There's plenty of darkness hiding under the sun here.
Well, I was speaking to someone on the podcast the other week, and they were saying, I understand why so many cults started here, because it's like this city of kind of broken dreams, and kind of there's a sadness about it.
Yeah. There is this sort of strange sadness and kind of, but it's all it's all in the shadows essentially, and like no one really talks about it, or like, I think it's harder to find real friends who aren't just looking at you as ladder friends to try and, how can you help me get to my thing? But it's nice. There's lots of great people here too, trying to do whatever, and it's easy to just tar everything with one big brush these days. Especially these days, feels like let's just slander everything around as much as possible. But like, I don't know. I know some nice people, and that's all I need. I feel like sometimes, just like once I look at wider than that, that's when life starts freaking me out, and I just have to focus on the things that make me happy and the people that I love, and kind of let the rest do its thing. And I don't know. I quite like it here. Honestly, our pendulum swing between wanting to get out and wanting to come back to the UK or something, or stay out here longer. Like and it's also just been a weird year of like knowing what the heck is going on, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a strange one.
You mentioned a little while back, maybe about 5 minutes or so ago, that you came from a family of kind of deep people and deep thinkers.
Yeah.
Did you mean that in terms of like an existential sense, or what were you sort of hinting toward?
Well, they were also Christians, but it was like, in some ways you can't really get more deep than the question of like, why are we here? God, all these sort of things. And you know, we were definitely debaters and liked to think about, it was like philosophizing and just talking about who we are as people and all this sort of stuff. And like, it was all with a tinge of religious world, but there's lots to, you know, there's lots of philosophy there and theology, and it was just, everything was just at that level all the time, you know, like we wouldn't really be able to talk about. It was like that and Star Wars. I felt that was all we really talked about with my brothers and stuff. It's like, it was either theology or Jedis. And then, you know, I mean, you can obviously theologize about Star Wars if you want. So yeah, we didn't really have kind of. I mean, when my wife Hannah came, she would hate those early times of coming for dinner and stuff because her family's a bit different. They'd just be, well, probably more normal, just like talk about the weather and stuff and, you know, that kind of level. And it would be straight away like, you know, who are you? You know, so I was like, who are you really? Like, what are you, you know, what are your passions? What do you drive? What are your drives? What are you know, it's like, oh my God. Yeah, so it's kind of, it was quite intense, but I don't think I would change it for anything because I feel like, yeah, it's just given me this big, I don't know if it's expanded but just there's a lot of songs there basically. Well, I just feel like it's easy for me to connect with those places, like going back to the start conversation about those songs that come from those places is just a little bit easier for me to go there and connect to those questions, and even just asking those questions. I don't know, it's not really about answers at all. It's just like asking the questions and enjoying the questions and enjoying the debate. I do love a debate and love asking kind of really annoying questions, and that, yeah, I think that just ends up opening up a lot of topics to write about, which, yeah, I feel very, very grateful to my sort of family for kind of establishing that in me, really, because I think I can credit that with how I write songs. And yeah,
I mean, like Time is a Riddle turned 4 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good example of that in your songwriting, where you kind of center it around this big expansive theme, time.
Yeah,
and what that kind of means to us. That's, I mean, yeah, one of the biggest questions of all, really.
Yeah. I like that. I guess it is quite weird, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it is quite. I never really.
It's something you can explore from a lot of different angles. Like, it gives you quite a lot of opportunities as a songwriter. Totally,
and I mean, it's another theme on this record. Like, I was talking to a friend who has been listening to the new record and was like, "Why are you so obsessed with time?" Like, I don't know. It just keeps coming up. As this kind of, I suppose, time and God and, you know, what it means to be human. They're the big kind of things to me, like time. What is it? And especially, I mean, I feel like it gets more confusing the older you get. That's the other thing. Like, you start looking back on your life and it just feels like it's disappeared. And
is it speeding up?
Yeah, I feel like it's speeding up, but slowing down at the same time. Yeah, it's just this. Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to get at in that song too. It's just like, what is going on? Like, what? How does this work? Does it go forward? Does it actually go backwards? I don't know. Like, what? I've decided we should change a year to be 2 years, because a year is just not enough time to, like. Do you think, like, a year is just nothing to me now? It just goes by. I think years should be expanded to be 2 years, because then that feels significant. 2 years still feels significant to me. Like, the calendars should be built around 2-year increments.
You mean in terms of the length of time?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
A year is just nothing. You can't do anything in a year.
You should move to Mars. Aren't there years like 500 days long or something?
That's a good idea.
Days are 36 hours as well, though, so it kind of cancels itself out.
Oh, yeah, no. I need shorter days, longer years. Yeah, but yeah, time is it's a theme. I can't remember what there's definitely. I can't remember now. There's definitely a song on the new record that that was the subject of that conversation, but now I can't remember what it is. But anyway.
Is maybe Tomorrow the new record?
No, it isn't. That was a song that kind of just sort of slipped through. I wrote that about a year ago or something with a guy out here, and it was specifically trying to write songs for like TV and film kind of stuff. And I mean, that's what's so weird about this kind of world I feel like I'm getting into now, is that you just sort of write these songs and then they're not really intended for me to put out. And then, I'd pretty much forgotten about that song, that it existed. And then we just get like a request from, what was it, Million Little Things, which is a TV show, and saying they wanted to use it for their show. And I was just like, what song is it? My manager was like, I don't know what song is it? I was like, oh, is that? Oh, awesome. So yeah, we just had to like get it out, and then it was kind of just made sense to obviously release it too. But yeah, it was kind of a bit like industry nonsense stuff. Like, but I mean, there's songs are songs. It's weird because I definitely at the moment I'm coming around to allowing myself to basically sing songs that I wouldn't necessarily. I just used to be super precious about everything, and I still am to a degree. But I wouldn't really sing anything that wasn't meant to be a Luke Sital Singh like artist. This is my thing. This is what's going to be on my record or whatever. Like, this is my voice. This is these are the lyrics that I will not go. This is my, thing. This is what I do, and I'm not going to do other things. Or I don't mind writing other things, but I'm not going to sing them, someone else or whatever. I'm just because I'm trying to, essentially still make money doing this job. Like, I've got to find ways to make money. And one of them that could be quite good for me is this kind of sync world where you just, you kind of write songs that are specifically for like those montages on whatever, Grey's Anatomy and stuff like that, and they kind of have a thing. And I've been lucky to have my own normal like released songs been featured in those shows, but there's this whole world of people writing songs specifically for that world, and it definitely interests me a lot more than the other side of that equation, which is like, oh, let's write songs that just sound like really poppy, or like radio songs or whatever, like trying to massage your sound into ways so it fits the market or whatever. And so sync writing is interesting, and that song, it actually ended up, it's so funny because you look back, I really didn't like that song when I wrote it, and I thought, that's kind of a bit cheesy, it's a bit like on the nose, or I don't know, like just something about it was bugging me. But I was kind of just like, just get over it, Luke, like it's fine, just whatever, it will go, give it to them, they'll pitch it for things like whatever. And then it, I'd completely forgotten about it, and it was a year later that it got picked up, and then it was this whole question of like, do I want to release it? And I'd actually grown to like it a lot more, and it was kind of, I don't know, I guess it was a realization that you can get really in your head about stuff, and you just need a bit of time, to go back to time, to kind of realize that maybe that doesn't matter too much, or why are you in your head about it? Like, what is it that's annoying you? I mean, it's a constant battle, because you're like, I don't want to throw my own taste out the window and just say, I will literally do anything, like, because nothing matters, and like I will always just end up liking it, and if it makes me money, then who cares? Like, money, brilliant. And I want to still make music and make art that I actually genuinely like, and it's come from me. But it's just funny how, like, given a bit of time, something that you can kind of really dislike at the time, just you start to go, why did I dislike that? And then you put that song out, like maybe Tomorrow. I don't know how you feel about it in the context of other music you've heard from me, but like, it's not different. It's not like anyone went, oh my word, well, you sold out, or like I can't believe you released this. It's like, it's exactly the same. It's like, there's nothing about it that is kind of shocking to anyone who likes my music. It's just like, and I'm just kind of questioning all the time, like, why was I so adamant that wasn't a me song when I wrote it and stuff like that? I mean, it's a tricky one, and I don't know where I'm going to land with it, but I'm doing a lot of that at the moment. I'm doing a lot of writing songs for this sort of world, and putting that voice away that's saying this is for this or this isn't for this, or let's just write the song, and like, write the best thing you can, whatever, like, the thing that will feel like it fits for this brief or whatever it is, and then just don't freak out. Just like, the future me is just saying, look, you might be really happy you wrote this song, like, because it might pay for this, and it might mean that you can make that record, and all this sort of stuff. And it's a weird minefield as like an artist and somebody who still romanticizes certain things about this job. Like, it's a job too, so you've got to start like thinking about it as a job that you actually have to make some money eventually and stuff. So yeah, it's a long-winded way of saying no, that song is not on my album. It's like the longest answer.
Maybe you just need to compartmentalize it a little bit, like make sure that you have that precious side to yourself and reserve that for the records. But then when it comes to singles, be a little bit more fluid. Yeah,
exactly. Especially in today's world where, like, if you really start questioning everything, you're like, why are you making a record? Why does that? It's irrelevant. It's a redundant form of putting this music out. Like, and I do it because that's how I want to do it, and that's how my heroes did it, and that's how what I want to do. And I still want the vinyl, and I want the whole thing, and I think this is why I'm sort of happy to open that world up now of this other writing, these other songs, is because I finished this record. I finished it. I've done exactly what I wanted to do. It's the most DIY record I've made. Like, I made it. I ended up making it with Dan Kroll. He helped me produce it, and we made it out here together, and it sounds great, and I'm super proud of it. And I think knowing that is there is allowing me to sort of open up this other stuff and kind of be a bit more free and see what other opportunities can come about, because I think people just like to hear me sing stuff. And I think sometimes I romanticize like being a songwriter, and I want to be known as a songwriter who writes great songs and not just a guy with a nice voice that kind of sings anything, so I think that plays a part. But I have written a record that I'm really, really proud of. So yeah, I'm definitely a bit more open-minded to singing kind of various things, and sort of looking at my voice as like a tool as well, like an instrument that I can just kind of use to keep this career going, kind of thing.
Does that then change your approach when you come back to singing for the records? Once you start to view it more like an instrument?
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe this is all fairly like new, if you know what I mean. Like, this is a really new development, I suppose, in my psyche, where we'll have to see on like the next thing, because this record is done. It was interesting. So I feel like progressively my records have got more sort of subdued in their vocal delivery. Like, I think album 1, I was really trying to like tell everyone I was here, basically, like really trying to make everyone like me and shouting. And it was, to me, it sounds really like abrasive now. Like, but I was really using my voice a lot. And then the last 2 records, I feel like I was just settling a bit more and just not feeling like I had to kind of sing to the rafters every time. And then this week I just wrote the song with a guy, and I was back kind of singing like album 1 Luke again, and it was kind of interesting to me, because I was like, wow, I have not sung like this in a long time, like proper sort of peak of my key. And it was cool to do. It made me like my voice got shot straight away, because I realized I don't know how to sing like this anymore. Like, I've not warmed up properly. I can't sing like this. Like, but it was interesting, because I hadn't quite seen that, how I'd changed how I sung until this week. I've gone, oh yeah, I used to do this all the time. Like, this is weird. So it'll be interesting to see, like, next record, if I kind of tap more into that thing again. I feel like I won't, if I was going to predict it, because my taste in music has just got way too indie schmindy. To like, I just like kind of lazy music and lazy vocal delivery and stuff. And
Matt DeMarco.
Yeah, basically Mac DeMarco, Damien Jurado, that kind of like Americana. It's not just I'm a singer. Look, listen to me belt it. It's just, here's a song. Listen to me sing it. Kind of like, I'm just going to sing this song in a chilled out way. I find that more palatable. Like, oh, it's just what I like to listen to. I don't really listen to sort of singers as such. So, but we'll see. We'll have to see what happens once I start opening those lungs up again on other stuff to see if it ends up sort of influencing my songwriting and stuff.
Speaking again of time, I've been running that idea you mentioned of making 1 year, 2 years through my mind over the last 10 minutes since you brought it up. Is that because you feel like what you achieve in 2 years feels like a better measurement, or is it personal growth?
I think it's I think it's everything. I just feel like every time I get to the end of a year, I'm like, oh God, what have I done? What have I achieved? Like, who am I in this year? But like, I feel like you look back at 2 years and you go, whoa, I've achieved loads in 2 years. It's just a perspective thing. I just feel like I find myself looking back on single years and being embarrassed, and looking back on like 2 years and being less embarrassed. So I mean, maybe that's just the way my kind of calendar has fallen with the things that I've ended up doing. But I don't know. It's partly facetious, but I just feel like years. Maybe it's just part of getting older as well. They just don't seem to mean anything to me anymore. Like what you can do in a year. And just being also just like, I moved to a different country and it's just like disappeared. I've been here, I'm into my 3rd year, and it's like, where has that gone?
Wow.
Which then bellows my point, because that's 3 years and I still feel like
COVID doesn't count then. That's no year.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, I've definitely lost a year of my life, which has been quite traumatic actually. I mean, as much as totally fine compared with a lot of people this year, I think when me and my wife, we're at a certain age where like losing a year has been quite upsetting, just in terms of where we are in our life and family and kids and all these sort of things. And you're just like, oh man, we could have really done with that year as a growing year rather than a stable kind of plateau year, especially moving out here and trying to sort of get opportunities and expand things. But hopefully this next year is, all the better, and everyone's kind of has a renaissance of excitement and opportunity and things. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's about finding stability without stasis.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a strange thing in this career. Just trying to, because I always feel like you've got to keep moving. Oh, I've just not found that thing that is the thing that will mean that we're fine forever. I feel like that's it's not even a real thing. I think it's just one of these stupid goals that you have. But you think, oh, if I just write that big hit song or like whatever, or like that thing that you can just live off forever. And I know, but it's annoying because when you know enough people that sort of have that, it becomes more realistic, or like it seems more realistic, but it's really not that realistic. But there are people to prove the exceptions that prove the rule, that you can just do one thing in this job and it just skyrockets everything, and then you're like secure for a long time. And it's a hard thing not to sort of pine for.
I think you spoke about that when you saw Ryan Adams, didn't you? Someone who kind of just completely honed that one skill and then kind of utilized it for maximum impact.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that I quite enjoy in this. I romanticize slightly about this the singer-songwriter thing. It's like, yeah, so that, I mean, the context of that, I just see Ryan Adams, like, well, when was that? A long time ago, in Brighton, where I used to live, and it was just him on stage. It was just like a tour de force to me, and just like a dude on stage with nothing but guitar, like being captivating and just kind of having everything. There was nothing missing from it. There was something of a mastery to it, and I've been interested in that aesthetic for a while, of just like doing simple things well. And there is something, I guess it's like a little bit of an illusion, but that it's simple. But it seems on the face of it simple to stand on stage with a guitar or a piano or whatever and just sing songs. Like, there is a simplicity to it. And but sometimes I think the simplest things are the hardest things to actually get right. And I've been interested in that kind of aesthetic in general and lots of things in there. I did a sort of weird video series about makers in the UK and stuff who I felt like shared that kind of aesthetic of just making whatever it was. It was like a knife maker.
The pottery guy in Glasgow. Just that very kind of minimalist design.
Yeah, and he just does that over and over again every day, and he's like perfecting these tiny little bits, and it seems really simple, but it takes years and years, and there's like a mastery to it. And I don't know if it really relates, if I'm trying to shoehorn it into like singer-songwriter, but to me it there's something about it that resonates with just night after night being like coming out. It's more of a performance thing than maybe a songwriting thing, but I guess it's intertwined. But yeah, just being able to stand on stage and like command that attention and that just be entertaining with no frills, with no bells and whistles. I just think, and I when I do it, it's so fulfilling when I nail it. And there's a pride thing as well of like knowing that was all me. Like I'm not relying on the light show and the band and stuff. It's literally like it's just me and my songs and my kind of ability to hold this crowd. Like there's a pride thing to it, but it's just captivating. I love it. They're my favorite gigs. It's a bit like a stand-up comedian too. Like it's risky, like you can really, when you fail, it's pretty miserable. You
bomb.
Yeah, when you bomb, and it's a real it's a high wire act. That's what makes it really fulfilling when it goes well, and then when it goes really badly, it's like you're going to have some existential dread for the rest of the week or something. But yeah, that's something that has kept me going. I mean, honestly, it's just weird talking about that even now. Like the amount of days it's been since I've say days, because I've seemed to be counting it in days. It's like 500 or something days since I've played a gig, and it's the longest time in my life. I feel like I could count like some of these weird existential things that I've been rabbiting on about to you. It's like some of it is coming from the fact that I don't have this thing has disappeared from my life. This giant part.
Well, you centered yourself around.
Yeah, and it was always in the past with my career and stuff. I would always lose heart after not doing a gig for a while, and then I would just need to go out and do it. And it would have to be like feel like a fairly successful gig, but like a gig where I felt like I connected and it worked. It would just kind of align everything for me, and I'd be like, oh, I know why I do this. I'd have it fresh energy and everything. So that's just, disappeared. And, I've not really thought about it too much. I'm not really sat around like mourning it particularly, which is why it's weird to talk about, because I've realised that maybe, I haven't really come to terms with that loss. And, and I guess it's looking good for stuff coming up now. So, but yeah, that has been a bizarre thing. And maybe that's why I'm starting to like have all these other weird questions about these songs and what I'm singing and all these other things that have come in that are kind of clouding my mind a bit about who I am as an artist and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait to do something. But I have a recurring nightmare now that I just get on stage and I've just completely forgotten, how to do it. And I'm just like, one of those scenes in the films where the person stands on stage and just like freezes. And and then everyone's just like looking at them, and it's terrifying. It's so terrifying. But yeah, hopefully that won't be the case. But yeah, gigs have been really important to me, and hopefully they come back soon.
I think that's a mostly positive thing to wrap us up on.
Wait, let me say it. They're coming back soon. Way. No, they are. No, I am. I do feel positive as a person these days, and that's weird. I probably don't sound it. I think the more I talk, the more introspective I get. But I think that's just as part of who I am. But I like talking about this stuff, and I hope it was of interest. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show, and yeah, it's a pleasure talking to you.